Us now on the panel is Hezbon Owila. Owila is a political commentator. Hezbon, thank you for making time. Before you came in, you were talking about the preparedness of IEBC, and you had part of that conversation. What is your view on how prepared they are, plus the questions that are being raised now against the IEBC?
Well, I think it's just important that, first of all, IEBC has a communication mechanism that inspires confidence. I think both sides of the political divide have had, some level of agreement that IEBC, has done some good job. But they've also pointed out a few issues, especially the issue to do with, the voter identification, from the KIM system and the issue of the, manual identification, just in case, you turn up to vote and then you cannot be identified manually. And I think to settle that conversation is just a question of the law, because Article 44A of the Elections Act 2011 is very clear that the Commission shall put in place a complementary mechanism for identification of voters and transmission of election results that is simple, accurate, verifiable, secure, accountable, and transparent, to ensure that it complies with the provision of Article 38 of the Constitution. And I think that settles the matter, that no one wants, an election that can be queried along illegalities and irregularities. We want an outright winner who will be happy with the victory, and a loser who will congratulate the winner. Okay. And I think from a communication perspective, it's just a question of how do we have, a free flow of information from IEBC that inspires confidence in the public. If you put the politicians out of this, I think it's just important that IEBC communicates in a manner that can be perceived by the public, that they're doing the right thing, and people get that confidence in the processes. All right.
Shabal, there's something going on right now. So the independent presidential aspirants, first, they've made 3 specific demands. They want the postponement of the elections. They want Wafula Chebukati to resign. They want a fresh vetting of all the presidential aspirants who are cleared. But before we get into these demands of theirs and the impact it has 31 days to the polls, do they have a point that they need to be included in the ballot paper after Justice Mrima's ruling, which said that they didn't need to attach the IDs of their purported supporters? Do they have a point when they say they need to be now included? In as much as the court did not clearly say that they should be included, but do they have a point? Because some of them were actually thrown out because they did not attach.
Again, like I said before, sideshows. Let's focus on the key issues. And the key issue that I think all of us here agree on is that IEBC must be transparent, must communicate more, and must be seen to be absolutely non-partisan.
Yeah.
Those are sideshows. Let's not waste time. I mean, anybody who comes and says that we should postpone the elections because his ID is not, come on, don't waste. I mean, there are millions of Kenyans waiting for this process to reach its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
So we should not waste our time even discussing those things.
But aren't these sideshows the same ones that could lead to election petitions in future? And someone will have a point that we were not included, and yet the court had made a ruling, therefore this election is null and void.
The court did not make a ruling that they should be included in there. So again, like I'm saying, that we're discussing sideshows. Let's focus on the key issues. And the key issues is that Kenyans want a credible election.
Yeah.
And right now, IEBC has a few days to start building that confidence as we move towards the final day. And there should be daily communications from IEBC. There should be daily engagements with both parties, with all parties in this process, so that by the time we reach August 9th, everybody is confident that we are on the right track. And right now, at least on our side, we have some serious disquiet about the way IEBC is managing this process. Don't dismiss this demand for a parallel manual register. It's important.
Okay. All right.
And if you had been out there in the countryside, if you've been to Moyale, you've been to Mandera, you've been to Kwale, Kilifi, anywhere in the remote areas, you will see that there's a serious sense of concern that I may not be there.
Okay.
You know, and so it has to be addressed.
Okay. Kipchumba, are this what Mheshimiwa is calling sideshows? Would they have an impact, especially for the independent presidential candidates?
You know, what we actually need to dismiss and clear the air, and I agree with him, some of them are sideshows, but the issue of signatures and what Justice Murima ruled, the judgment is this way, Trevor. The court agreed with the petitioners to the extent that you do not need the IDs, the copies.
Yeah.
That did not oust the requirement of the 2,000 signatures per county. That is what most of these aspirants are not telling Kenyans. So we are just telling Kenyans, they said you don't need the ID. It is just the ID that the court did away with, but the signature remains. And none of those people took or went to IEBC with the signatures as required as per law. So at the end of the day, we can't reinvent the wheel, Trevor. The court...
Some of them claim to have.
No, but I was part of that process, Trevor. I was the one leading from Kenya Kwanza in the issue of signature verification. Some of these people did not appear there with those documents. Let us not gaslight Kenyans. IEBC might have problems, but let us also not bring mediocre requests to IEBC. We are all Kenyans, and IEBC do not run an election in the moon. They run it here. They run with our taxes. And there are so many people who their lives depend on this election. There are so many investors, for example, who are holding their money, awaiting the outcome of this election. That goes with jobs and everything. So for us to sit here and discuss very mundane issues that you do not go to IEBC with the requisite signatures, you now talk about IDs. We are wading around the issue. So at the end of the day, there are cases that we really need to ask questions, and I will not even go to the signature question at a personal level. I will ask the issue of the Masit case. The court has ruled that Masit was not hired regularly, but the same court said, due to the doctrine of necessity, allow her to finish. But you know now, the court did not tell us after the election, what do we do with Masit as a commissioner? Does she remain a commissioner? Does she go home? What happened to the process? If today I was vying to be an MCA in this election and I lose, I might go to court as well and say one of the commissioners who was in this place was not supposed to be here. So those are the questions we need to ask. But even as we ask those questions, we need to provide solutions, because this process where it has reached, to ask that you need to vet candidates afresh, elections are time bound. There are statutory timelines that we follow. In this election, it doesn't happen just like germination of maize, that if you plant today, it will germinate. If you plant tomorrow, it will. No, we have a date which is 9th of August. We have activities that must happen, without which that election will not happen. We agree with what Maraga said, that election is a process, but again, there are sacrifices to which the process must demand, and we must give it.
Yes. But